Hi everyone, it is April and here today we're going to chat about the authors that I discovered in 2020 that I have fallen in love with. I might not have read all of their works, but I know that I will work my way through their stuff because they made such an impact on me. I can't wait to read all of their stuff, so let's get into it. First, we're gonna get it out of the way. I'm gonna, everyone watching the intro to this video must have been thinking I would talk about Nikki French, and of course, here I am. I have read 8, 9, 10 Nikki French books this year. That's how good this author is. Wonderful, wonderful author. So, in particular, I was introduced to the Nikki French series of books called the Free to Klein series. This is Blue Monday. This is the first in the series. And this follows a psychotherapist named Frida Klein, and she ends up getting involved in all sorts of crimes and trying to solve crimes. She is a wonderful onion. Nikki French writes very fascinating characters that you get to know over the course of the book. In this case, we got to know Frida over the course of 8 books. And I just love her writing. So their writing, I should say, because it's a husband and wife duo. If you are looking for a riveting, thought-provoking, thrillery series, here you go. A character-driven thrillers. Look no further than Nikki French. I want to read everything she has written. They have written. I always say she. So Nikki French all the way. I think that's probably who I'm most grateful for this year in terms of authors. Just because I've gotten so much enjoyment out of their work. Next, oh my gosh, is a book I read earlier this year that had such an impact on me. This is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. So Colson Whitehead, I think, is one of the most important writers of our day. I really think he is. I haven't read anything else by him. I have the Underground Railroad somewhere on my shelves. I'm looking over there. I'm looking over at my historical fiction. I can't see it from the corner of my eye, but that's okay. I really want to read that. I think he is also coming out with a new one in 2021. I will be 100% buying that. But this book just had such an impact on me, and I still feel emotional just thinking about this book. This follows a boy named Elwood who is Black, and he is accused of having done something wrong, which he has not done. I'm still protective of Elwood months later. And he is sent to the Nickel Academy, which is not much of an academy at all. It's hell in a school. There's so much abuse that takes place at the Nickel Academy, and it's about his experience and the boys that he meets, the friendships he creates. It hits you hard. It's also based on a true story of a school in Florida. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head right now, but that school was very similar to the Nickel Academy. So impactful, so impactful. Next is another author who I've only read. There are actually quite a few of these where I've only read one book by that author, but in this case, I read this book and then ran out and bought all of her other books. I just haven't read them quite yet. This is As Bright as Heaven by Susan Meissner. Susan Meissner writes historical fiction, and I loved this book. I cared so deeply about the characters. She writes about snippets in time that not everyone writes about. This was written about the Spanish flu well before the pandemic that we're all dealing with happened. And we follow a family in Philadelphia who own a funeral parlor. And we follow a family trying to work through the devastation that was the Spanish flu in Philadelphia, where it was very hard hit in Philadelphia because of some sort of parade that they had. Ended up being this super spreader event. And it's, really heartbreaking. It's also very heartwarming how kind these family members are. There's mystery in here. I just thought it was wonderful, and I can't wait to read all of Susan Meissner's stuff. She has a new one coming out in 2021 called, is it The Nature of Fragile Things? Something along those lines. So, and that's early 2021. I definitely want to get that too. Next is Candace Carty-Williams' Queenie. This was funny. This was sad. This was a character-driven story that follows a young Black woman living in London, and she ends up in all of these horrible relationships with men. Men are terrible to her in this book, but luckily she's got a group of friends, these female friendships that she can lean on, that are just wonderful people. And she is flawed, but she's also, you are rooting for Queenie the whole way through. I cannot wait to see what Candace Carty-Williams comes out with next. I will say this will be a little triggering for people who let themselves be treated poorly in relationships, or in dating, I should say. This was a bit triggering for me. But I think it just helped me to examine my past, and I never experienced anything to the degree that Queenie did, but it brought up a lot. And if a book can do that, my gosh, that's pretty good writing. So I definitely want to read everything that she comes out with. Oh my gosh. Another author, I've only read one by her, but I just know she's going to be a favorite thriller writer for me forever. And this is Katherine Ryan Howard. I read Rewind by her. I have all of her other books on my shelves now because I just know that I love her. Her writing style is so smart. The twists and turns are they come out of nowhere. They're surprising. They're exciting. In this book, you follow mainly, three characters really. We follow a woman who is a social media influencer. And she discovers something about her husband, and she goes to the Shannon Moore cottages to uncover the truth. We also follow the manager at the Shannon Moore cottages, who just so happens to be a real creep, and he literally puts cameras in the people's rooms and watches them. So creepy. One day he's watching a woman who's come to stay at the Shannon Moore cottages, and he watches her get murdered. And then we follow a journalist trying to figure out a disappearance. I'm not going to say more than that. It was brilliant. I couldn't put this down. I love her. She's also really, really funny. I follow her on Instagram, and I really enjoy her. So there's that. I've read 2 books by Stacey Halls now. I think she only has 2 books out. The Lost Orphan is her most recent, and then I also read The Familiars. I really enjoy her writing style. She writes historical fiction. This one was about a woman who has to give up her child. She is very poor. It's the 1700s. This is London, 1754. She has to give up her child. She has no choice. But she brings her child to a place where they'll take care of the child. You're given a token and you just bring that back when you're ready to pick up your child again and you've, gotten things together. It's not an orphanage in the sense that like people aren't meant to take the children and raise them as their own. But what happens is I think she waits 6 years, and in those 6 years she works so hard and she's ready and she goes and brings the token and she's so excited to see her daughter again. And she discovers that someone using her own name picked up the child the day after she dropped her child off. So where in the world is her girl? And you dive into the story, which I really enjoyed. There is also this like creepy element to her books, I find. There's a little bit of creepiness, but nothing over the top. Like it, oh, so good. So I really have enjoyed Stacey Halls. I'll read anything she comes out with. Ditto for Angie Kim. My goodness, I think, was this the first book I read this year? This packed such a punch. This is a courtroom drama about a group of people who have been victims of a terrible, terrible event one day that happened at the Miracle Submarine, which was this kind of a medical equipment to treat things like autism, like infertility, and all of these people, children, grown adults, would go to this Miracle Submarine on a weekly basis to get treated. One day, the Miracle Submarine has a fire breakout. Several people die, and we follow a woman on trial who is said to have killed her child, like put this thing ablaze on purpose to kill her child who had, I think, autism. And you follow the trial. You also follow each perspective of everyone involved. So parents who had children in the Miracle Submarine, the owners of the Miracle Submarine. It was brilliant. This is so much about gray and how, life is not black and white and you don't know what other people are going through. This is about the importance of not judging as much as we do. I just thought Angie Kim was insanely brilliant. Now, she herself is a trial lawyer. So I hope and pray that she writes a lot more trial stories. And you can do so much with that. There's so many different cases that you can do. I just think she's brilliant and I loved it. I can't wait to read more by her. And then again, the same thing with Kate Elizabeth Russell. She wrote My Dark Vanessa, and this had a huge impact on me. I would be very surprised if you didn't see quite a few of these popping up in my top favorites of the year. A lot of debut novelists, I don't think Kate Elizabeth Russell has written anything else, but this is about a woman who is reflecting on her high school experience of having a love affair with her high school English teacher. Essentially, she was sexually abused by this man, and doesn't recognize it as abuse even all of these years later. And it's her working through it. She actually still, in fact, talks to this guy. And many other students of his have started to come out and say, hey, this guy abused me. And you watch her grapple with what actually happened to her because she's in denial. She hasn't healed. She hasn't worked through it. And you watch her work through it. You get flashbacks. It's a hard book, very hard book. but one of the most important books I've ever read. So, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what else she writes. So those are all of the authors that I can think of at this very moment that I have read this year that, I mean, now they're like auto-buy authors, and I'm so grateful that I found them. Anyway, let me know in the comments below what that author was for you this year that you had discovered and like made 2020 a better year, because Lord knows we needed some wins this year, didn't we? I hope you're doing well, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.